meeting of the City Council is now called to order. If everyone please stand. Let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll ask Ms. Tackett if she will lead us in pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I want to remind council members be sure to push the button to make sure it's always on, and be careful about what you say, sneeze and so on, because it will be picked up. At this time, have roll call.
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mrs. Wilkins-Brent?
Here.
Mrs. Butcher-Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Hambrick?
Present.
Mr. Hampton?
Here.
Mr. Showalter? Mr. Stone?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
At this time, approval of minutes.
I make a motion, Mayor.
Have a motion
I'll second.
and second. Motion has been made and properly second. Are there questions or further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say likewise. You should have received the receipt of check register. If you have received those, please raise your hand. Thank you. At this time, we'll have public comments. I want to remind you that this is not question and answer. You will have 4 minutes in which to state your concerns to the council, and that way we will be very respectful for everybody at this time. At this time, Jeremy Emerson, who's going to talk about crisis response, prayer support. Okay.
Thank you all for letting me talk to you. In wake of some of the things that just happened to our community recently, I've been attending the last two city committee meetings, and I kind of heard a common theme. We're trying to look for some resources and things like that, mental health wise, for our first responders, our community, basically everybody. And what I come across is some things that already exist and they're free. That's the best part. Background on me a little bit. I'm a peer support specialist. I don't work for them currently, but that's how I found out about all these resources. There's a lot of things I've gone through. So like with first responders and stuff like that, I'm a veteran that at one point in my life thought my life wasn't worth it anymore. And that was through lots of trauma that I went through. So I understand, and I've been in those type of shoes when trauma happens, and trauma happened early in my life too. Matter of fact, this month is PTSD Awareness Month. So some of these resources, I hate it that they're gonna come in handy, but they're very needed. And I wanna tell you that even though we're kind of out of the moment where people are still remembering what happened, and it doesn't seem that we're in a crisis right at the moment, that doesn't mean that that's the way for everybody. There are still some people that are still going to be in that way for quite some time. So some of these resources that I'm going to talk to you about, we're more than eligible for. Basically, the Kentucky Community Crisis Response Team, they have 2 different teams that they'll send out. So, matter of fact, they'll send these out as soon as a situation happens. And this is not just for law enforcement and just for first responders in general, fire and everybody else. This is if like something happens at a school, at a workplace, like it happened with the line of duty. What it is the Kentucky Law Enforcement Assistance Program, and I emailed this stuff to you, and I wanted you to get it to the department heads as well. The law enforcement works with the law enforcement part, right? So they can train them in peer support, which I think that our community could very well use. Since we're kind of looking at like we're growing, but just to start something off, I think that we could probably have an interlocal team. So, because we were already kind of piggybacking on each other and helping each other out. So this way you can bring people that are retired, people that have maybe been injured in line of duty. This might be some good way to bring them back in so they can kind of work. What I envisioned is that in this peer support team that you have, let's say you have one for the police, one for the fire. If you have them in individual shifts, right? I don't know exactly, that's the ideal, perfect thing, is to have somebody at least on one shift. But if you didn't, that's something that can be built up over time. And it's not that they have to be certified anything, it's that they know the policy, the wellness policy for each department, but then you have an interlocal peer support team where they can work together. And like, a dream is to kind of have, like, most of the time, they just don't want to go talk and make it that they're talking to the same people where people know they're talking, right? The vet center, they came up with that when people come back from Vietnam because they didn't want to be seen talking to anybody. So they created a place that was outside of the VA. So what I was envisioning is that if you get this peer support team together, you can have a firefighter that talks with a fellow police person, you know, so that way you're not intermingling with some of the same crew. And it's very easy to do. And like I said, a lot of this stuff, I've sent manuals on how you start up these programs. These teams that I was telling you about, the Kentucky Law Assistance Program, the Kentucky Emergency Services Peer Support, they'll come in. You basically just make a phone call and say, here's the assistance we want. Let's say that you want crisis response planning. They can work for you, like take an instance, maybe what happened here, and build on it for hopefully it will never happen again. But it doesn't have to be just a natural disaster. It can be anything that's happening where it's caused our, big trauma within our whole community. And they come and do this for free. They'll talk to you about your peer support program. They'll talk to you about crisis response. And then what I was talking about individually, the police, the fire, they both know what's the best for them and how that goes in their own policy internally. Interlocally, like I said, that's where we could all come together. So what you all find out city-wise that you want to do, then it can be shared with the county that way. And that's basically what I wanted to share, because I just kind of heard the common theme repeated and I wanted to help. So,
Thank you, Jeremy.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Austin Render, Burn Bicycle Tour.
Good evening, council members, mayor, thank you. Appreciate your time this evening. So the Bourbon Burn, we established this event in 2017, but last year was the first year that we brought it through Georgetown. So I recognize some of y'all from last year, essentially asking very similar request to last year. It was permission to bring the routes through town, right through downtown. Our stop was Royal Springs Park, right in front of Bourbon 30. So obviously using that space as a support stop for food and water while the riders visit right across the street at Bourbon 30. It's still up in the air whether Bourbon 30 will be in that location by this time of year, but Lori and I are working through perhaps another attraction that we could bring if they're not open at Bourbon come September. So the dates in question are September 30th, and it would be from as early as 7 a.m. We would have folks on site, some of our staff setting up. The first riders, since they're only coming from the Kentucky Horse Park, would be showing up about 7:30. And we do not have a mass start, so we ask that folks start riding no earlier than 7 a.m. and that they're out of the horse park by 9 a.m. So we would see them kind of streaming through, trickling through, not hitting all at once, between about 7:30 and 11 a.m. We're currently sitting at about 750 riders. Attendance is down a little bit this year. We had about 1,000 last year, so we expect to be somewhere in between what we had last year, maybe a little bit south of there. The route that I had proposed is exactly the same as what we did last year after working through it with the police department and making a couple minor tweaks. I'm happy to either talk through that. I do have a copy. I'm happy to pass around for you all to take a look. Oh, okay, great. So any questions or concerns so far? You may notice, I think the last page of that document shows 2 locations that we had traffic control last year, essentially both at the bypass as they come in and as they exit town. Plan to do the same this year, unless there's any concerns or the need of a 3rd location perhaps.
What's the total mileage of the route?
So there's actually multiple routes coming through. All of the routes, short, medium, and long, are coming through Georgetown, and then they split once they get outside of town. Our shortest that day is about 27 miles, and right now it looks like the longest is going to be close to 120, going all the way to Bullitt and back. So, and then there's a couple options in between.
I think
thinking
I'm out
about
of town
joining
that
us?
day.
You thinking about joining us?
I'm out of town that day.
Oh,
What day was it? What day did he say?
You out of town, no matter what day it is.
Any questions? Concerns?
Chief, is there any issues with traffic control that morning?
Not that I'm aware of. We had a pretty good plan last year. If he's saying it's the same plan, we can work with it. Start at pavement.
Okay.
Take care of it.
Okay.
Very good.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion that we accept.
Second.
Motion's made, properly second. Other questions or further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say likewise.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, Caitlin Tudor, Safe Haven Box.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you all for allowing me to have a moment. A few months ago, I was actually up here, more in a professional capacity with my Unexpected Blessings Adoption and Foundation, which is the domestic private adoption agency here in town, and the foundation that goes along supporting birth parents. It has recently been brought to my attention that apparently maybe something I had said was misunderstood or misinterpreted regarding the Safe Haven box, and I wanted to dispel that. I have zero issues whatsoever with the Safe Haven box. I think it's a fantastic idea. I'm trying to get in contact and hopefully build a relationship with one of the ladies in Northern Kentucky that's actually very prominent with getting those placed in various places around Northern Kentucky. What I do have an issue with is the statutory and regulatory process behind the box once the baby actually leaves the box. And so that is something that I'm trying to work with legislature to potentially change. So that is all I'm up here to do, is just because the conversation initially was started based on my appearance a few months ago here, I wanted to come on record and say that I have zero issues with the Safe Haven box that's coming to Georgetown, but I do have issues with after the Safe Haven box is used. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there anyone else that needs to have comments to the council? All right, a couple things to make sure that we all are aware of. As you know, Juneteenth is Monday, which is a federal holiday, and that our office, as well as the county office and some governmental offices, will be closed. At Ed Davis on Saturday the 17th at 12 noon, I think to 10 o'clock, they're going to have a celebration there. You may want to drop in and check it out. I plan to come. I want to do a proclamation that we have done in the past to signify that that event. So that will be something coming forward with. Also, Cardinal Drive, and I think Mr. Hightower will talk more about this later, but it is, they're starting on it, Cardinal Drive. They are doing it now because since kids are not in school, it will be easier to do that and not having a lot of issues. And they do know that we have the fair going on and some other activity that will be going on later on, and they're going to work through those along with the city to make sure that there's no real major issues with traffic and so on. But Eddie will talk more about that a little bit later on. The light poles, which you asked me to have Eddie to look at, it was told today that they have started the base that's going to go for those light poles, which will be the metal. Is that correct? Metal one, and that they do have some in stock enough to where it's going to cover us, correct? Yes. So we're going to have those up and going. So their KU is at this time putting the platforms in to start that. Next, we have hired an administrative assistant. As you know, our Sarah, who was my administrative assistant, is now going to be our IT liaison, and so after a long search, we have someone who's going to start June the 26th. We have to make sure that everything is falls in line with the backgrounds and all that. So we have that in place, and they start on June 26th. And I'll send you the information on her later on to council, who she is. Also, we hired the homeless director and housing initiative. We had a vacancy happen because our previous one could not fulfill the obligation because some things that came up that she could not fulfill the obligation of doing that job. So we had a search committee do that, and so we're pleased to let you know that we have someone hired, and that person will start July the 6th. And we will have that in place, and I will give you the information on that person here. And the next thing we're doing is getting our city attorney, and once we get everybody in place, we want to have an open house later on, and we want the citizens to come by and meet the people who actually work for the city and what we do. And you all welcome to come to those and take part in this open house, and so people will know who you are as well. Other than that, I think that's about it on my part. Next, council committee reports, and I think, Mr. Stone, you have from the police.
Yes, sir. We met on June the 5th. The meeting was delayed because of Mayor Jenkins swore in a newly hired officer, Officer Cynthia Stewart. So we got a little bit of a late start. Had Jeremy Emerson as a guest that spoke along the same lines as for the mental health discussion. So the next thing we talked about was staffing and hiring issues. Police department is currently at 61 of 68 officers, have one non-certified in the process, and potentially looking for lateral transfers very soon. Mental health issues were discussed. Chief Allgood stated that as soon as Assistant Chief Nash gets back, he is going to be in the process of building a mental health response team. We did have several officers that spoke with the response teams that came in from Northern Kentucky as well. So, and that was a great service that was provided with that event. Patrol area renovations are coming. They're going to be opening up sealed bids soon. New weapons and vehicles are in the works. They're some of them are on their ways, so they're coming. Body cameras, that's a project that Assistant Chief Nash will work on as well, applying for a justice grant to get those. Worst case scenario, we'll be able to look at maybe adjusting the budget at mid-year, or they will be in the budget for next year. We did discuss the pathways, criminal justice pathways at Great Crossings, excuse me. There is a new football coach at Great Crossings that has a criminal justice background, so that could lead into that. Captain Lodel reported that Sergeant Mark Gardner will lead the traffic unit. And there's a lot of great opportunities with that program, such as the Operation Stop Arm 5Ks and such for that. We had a commitment to duty was discussed. Chief Allgood bragged on his officers, also sent out a lot of thank you letters to agencies that covered the city of Georgetown and Scott County that allowed the officers to attend the visitation and the funeral as well. So, and that they will, Captain Lodel also attended National Law Enforcement Fallen Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and escorted Lieutenant Gary Crump's family up there for his name to be placed on the wall. We have 2 interns that have started with the police department. Both are females. One is in her last year of college, one just completed her freshman year of college, and both are looking towards getting jobs with Georgetown Police Department. The last thing we discussed was the alarm ordinance for false alarms for houses and businesses and such. So their officers are working on filling out the paperwork and moving that forward. So
Thank you.
that's it.
Next was fire.
Oh, yes. And, Mark, you weren't able to be there. Assistant Chief Gifford can help me if I say something wrong, because you were there, but we discussed several things, and it's just notes. First, Chief Thompson had said he wanted to thank all the mayor and the council members for the hard work on the budget and for the proposed budget. Hopefully, that will be passed. There was a first Citizen Fire Academy class that just graduated just before COVID. They will be hosting a junior fire academy this year, and they have a lot of interest in that right now. Also, Battalion Johnny Jacobs was added to the National Firefighter Memorial Wall, which is very important and good to know that he was added on the wall there. I attended a recruit graduation. We had 3, was it 3? That was a very interesting experience, and very proud of these young men that are coming aboard to be firefighters. And one of the most important things that we were discussing, which will come up sometime later down the line, they are running out of room for training, and they're hoping we can acquire some kind of property or something here in Scott County to get their training facilities enlarged or whatever. And they want the PD and the EMS, everyone to use this. I don't know if we own any property or whatever, if we're going to be looking at it, but I think Devin and the mayor have been talked to by Chief Thompson, and he's going to put something together to bring to the council, but that's something that's very important that is needed, and we'll be coming up soon. That's all I have.
And about that, yes, we've been in conversation, Devin and I, Chief Thompson, as to finding a facility which will allow them and all first responders to use this as a training facility. And we're going to give you some update on that, Council, once we fine-tune everything and get what we need. There is some property, as we talked about earlier, where somebody wants to buy the old, the recycling place. So that will, and I think that's one place that we're looking at. The question is, do we want to actually rent that out, or do we want to actually use that as part of their facility for training? That's something we're going to talk a little bit more about later on. One other thing that I think
I forgot
to mention is that Chief Allgood has a junior Citizens Patrol class started, and I had the opportunity to actually walk in right before swearing in the new officer, and it was jam-packed. And I think 25 is the limit, and he had 25. And I'm talking about all diversity, and it was just great to see those young kids there, and actually seeing how we swear people into office, and also going through some training. And from what I've been told, it's been going extremely well, and a lot of them really want to do that, and they get to practice with tasers too. That they could do that too. No, I'm just kidding.
Friday, they wanted to run it longer. They wanted it 2 weeks, but we may look at it, bringing them back as an alumni.
Good.
Just like we do the adults, so they can come back and help out.
Good. I was just kidding about the tasers. You don't want to give middle school kids tasers. That won't work well. So, all right. So that's basically it. Number 8 on the agenda is the first reading of the code amendment increasing sewer and water connection fee. The sponsor is Mark Showalter and Todd Stone. And Chase, you're up.
Our approved FY24 budget did include an increase to our water and sanitary sewer connection fees as discussed, and those are, just as a refresher, by the same percentage as what our water and sanitary sewer rates did increase this year, so right at 17%. We've already updated our, as I said, the budget that's approved by Board and Council. We've also already updated our engineering manuals that reference the connection fees, as well as our office policy manual. So the last thing that we need to do in order to implement the increases on the connection fees is within the water and sanitary sewer ordinance. So we have reading number 1 for you tonight. And since we're talking about this, you won't hear me pass up the opportunity to say this is a good first step. Next step is impact fees. So I'm not going to stop talking about that. So any questions on the ordinance first reading?
An ordinance amending Chapter 40 of the Georgetown Code of Ordinances to increase the cost of sewer and water connection fees. Summary. 1. Amend Section 40-378 subsection D and 40-494 subsection C to provide for increased sewer connection fees and water connection fees. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and effective date of July 1, 2023, and upon passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time June 12, 2023.
Next is the Water Solution Unlimited, $12,375.
Yep, this is a purchase order for a 2-month supply of bleach, which is our primary disinfectant at the water treatment plant. These are bid items. In addition to bidding them once a year in a unit price contract, we also, anytime at this point we're making purchases like this that are routine, we're still calling and getting current pricing, trying to make sure we're getting the absolute lowest price for our customers. So that's what you have today. And that's 2 to 3 month supply.
Do I have a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made. Do I have a second? Second. Motion is made in second. Are there further discussion or questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise. Next is the Water Waste Treatment Plant Number 2 UV Disinfectant Upgrades and Modifications Recommendation of Award.
Yep. This is for design services for our UV upgrade project, that being the ultraviolet light. That is our means of disinfection at wastewater plant 2. And this is a budgeted project with where we received price proposals, with Kentucky Engineering Group being the low at $77,670. And this again is for design, construction administration, and full-time inspection services for this project.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made.
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. Are there further questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise.
Just like to thank Councilmember Allen, who came and spent Saturday morning with me at Plant 1, did a full walkthrough of the existing plant and our construction of the new plant. We had a really good time, I think, for talking wastewater, and a lot of good questions and very informative. So anybody else that's wanting that experience, let me know.
I think I've already done that, so. All right, finance. Okay, Stacy, going to talk about the second reading of the year 23-24 budget ordinance. Sponsor Alonzo Allen and Greg Hampton.
I'll let Tracy read. You go ahead.
An ordinance of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky adopting the annual budget for the fiscal period July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government. Summary, Section 1. Adopts by incorporated exhibit the fiscal year 2023-24 budget of the City of Georgetown, Kentucky as follows. Governmental funds, original budget, Prior year revenues, $12,882,708. Revenues, municipal taxation, $3,252,000. Licenses and permits, $27,023,216. Franchise fees, $2,195,000. Fines and forfeitures, $154,500. Intergovernmental revenues, $16,690,906. Charges for service, $1,705,381. Other revenue, $6,000. Other financing sources, transfers, $10,679,770. Total city revenues, $61,706,773. Expenditures, general government, $2,314,493. City council, $149,538. City clerk, $325,255. Police, $11,275,540. Public works, $4,266,345. Fire, $8,586,893. Code enforcement, $417,469. Building inspection, $639,201. Dispatch telecommunications, $3,357,041. Utilities, $840,000. Community services, $1,197,475. Interlocal, $6,804,058. Self-insured medical plan expenses, $4,003,100. Capital outlay, $28,108,256. Debt service, $1,149,193. Transfers to other funds, $1,155,624. Total city expenditures, $74,589,481. Proprietary funds, original budget. Revenues, sanitation, $2,604,000. Cemetery, $246,000. Intergovernmental revenue, $135,510. Other revenue, $5,000. Other financing sources and transfers, $1,078,139. Total proprietary revenues, $4,068,649. Expenditures, sanitation, $2,604,000. Stormwater, $952,629. Cemetery, $512,020. Total proprietary expenditures, $4,068,649. Section 2. Authorizes the mayor, except as provided in the Georgetown Purchasing Policy, adopted in Municipal Order 11028 and amended in Municipal Order 2022-17 to enter into any contracts or agreements necessary to fulfill the operation of city government within the allocations listed in this ordinance. Section 3. Provides that if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such infirmity shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 4. Provides that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time May 25th, 2023. Publicly read the second time June 12th, 2023.
Thank you, Tracy.
Okay. At this time, or do you have any discussion? Yes, sir.
Stacy, I was thinking earlier this afternoon how many budgets that we can work through. I think it's,
Probably about 10, or 9 or 10. Yeah.
and I watched you over those last 9 or 10 years, and I have concerns with this budget, with at least 6 or 7 items, but I also have a lot of trust and confidence in you. So I am going to support this budget tonight, but again, I do have concerns, and I think starting next month gets this, well, we know we have to have a budget. We'll start on July 1st. We all know that. I just hope that the discussions that start about a month from today, that we proceed with caution and move slow have an open mind and do a lot of listening. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion or question? At this time, we will need to take a vote. Roll call.
Mrs. Hambrick.
Wait a minute, hold on, just a minute. Somebody else?
Make a motion?
Yeah, I think we need the motion.
Yeah, we
I'm
do
sorry.
need a motion. You are so right.
I'm
Motion,
sorry.
Mayor.
Make a motion. Motion is made, properly second. Are there questions or further discussion? At this time, we have a roll call. My bad.
Mrs. Hambrick.
Yes.
Mrs. Butcher Conway.
Yes.
Mrs. Wilkins Brent.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mr. Hampton.
Yes.
Mr. Showalter.
Yes.
Mr. Stone.
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett.
Yes.
All right, budget passed. Next, we have the first reading of the year 22-23 budget amendment ordinance. Sponsors Alonzo Allen and Greg Hampton.
I'll go first on this one.
You'll go? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go first on this one since this is a new ordinance. We always, especially for our new council members, we typically have about 3 budget amendments a year. We have one in the fall that typically is to start out correcting carry forward balances on grants, municipal road aid funds, anything like that, because when we adopt our budget, we estimate how much is going to be left in the grant fund, how much is going to be left in capital projects, municipal aid. So we always have one in the fall to address those carry forward balances, what we've actually spent, and then anything that's come up since July 1. We do a mid-year budget amendment to entertain any new requests from departments, kind of just a mid-year assessment check. And then we do what we're presenting tonight, which is our end-of-the-year budget amendment, which is cleanup. So anything council's approved since the last amendment through today that was not originally budgeted, and then if there are any accounts that we see are heading towards over budget. When we look at our budget from like our auditor's perspective, we look at the department as a whole. So as long as the department as a whole doesn't go over budget with their operating, we're good. But sometimes there's line items within that that have a little more unexpected throughout the year. So the vast majority of this, I went through in the memo in the packet, are things that were previously approved via municipal order or resolution. But the few that were different is vehicle maintenance for police and fire, an addition of $50,000 each. And this is just by the nature that the vehicles break, we have to repair them. Sometimes we have accidents or collisions. We do get insurance reimbursement on those, but sometimes the timing of when we have to pay the body shop is not the same as the insurance check. So that is 2 of the items. The additional one is professional services for dispatch. There are 2 expenses there. The net gain, their portion of the net gain contract, and the GMWSS collection fees. It's a percentage of the revenue collected. So the revenue that we've collected on the 911 fee was a little over what was budgeted. Therefore, the collection fees are a little over what was budgeted. So that's just to correct that line item. And then the last one was cemetery fund, their professional services. They've had a vacant position for a while, so he has had to use additional temp help from a temp agency. And even though it is a change, we are actually moving money from salaries to professional services. I just don't have permission to move more than $10,000 in or out of a line item without council's approval. So we're moving money from salaries to professional services in the amount of $23,000 to cover that additional temp help until he gets that position filled. So everything else was previously approved by council action. Now you can read. Yes, thank you. Oh,
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
The cemetery wall,
yes.
can you do updates?
I will check on that.
Yeah, they order the block, it has to, it's a special made block, they get from a block company, and, we're supposed to have them in the next 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And that was about 2 weeks ago, when I spoke to them last Wednesday, so as soon as they get them in, they'll install it.
Eddie, as a follow-up to that, is the integrity of the rest of the wall
Well,
secure?
It's very old and.
Right.
It's kind of, we're band-aiding it, here, with this repair, the section that fell down. But, you can see the wall when you drive by, it's compromised, from one end to the other.
And we did, I mean, one of the things we did when we issued the bid was we did the bid two ways, which is just fix what's broken right now, what fell down, and we did it to replace the full length. To replace the full length is about $1 million. So at this time, we didn't want to bring that level of expense to council, but that doesn't mean that this might not happen in a different section
I just
in the
wondered
future.
if there's anything that can be done with the ground itself to take the pressure off the wall so it doesn't continue to have the push.
That's a really good comment. We've looked at a number of things that might help slope, getting the water to not go right to the foundation of the wall, kind of divert it. We'll continue to look at some things like that, see if we can do some grading, behind the wall, especially
Right.
where it comes off the hill there, and see if that can improve the thing. Keep it there as long as we can. Just a big expense to try to replace it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. Summary. General Fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $527,237.10. Other revenues are increased by $69,988.57. Police expenses are increased by $50,000. Fire expenses are increased by $119,988.57. Transfers to other funds are increased by $427,237.10. 911 Dispatch Fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $9,500. Dispatch expenses are increased by $19,000. MAP Fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $75,000. Capital expenses are increased by $75,000. Grant Fund. Federal grant revenue is increased by $1,597,550. Community services expenses are increased by $1,597,550. Cemetery Fund. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $27,849.60. Transfers from other funds are increased by $27,849.60. Cemetery expenses are increased by $55,699.20. Capital Projects Fund. Transfers from other funds are increased by $399,387.50. Capital expenses are increased by $399,387.50. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 629 North Broadway, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Public introduced and read for the first time June 12, 2023.
All right. Next is the municipal order adjusting City Hall project GMP.
Okay, I wanted to go over just a few things. I know you all received a memo from Devin last week, and then the information in the packet this week. And I spoke with Devin briefly before this meeting too, and there were a couple of things she wanted me to remind you all of as we consider this. So in April, we brought a price for City Hall to be approved by council. It was $12,350,000. After that time, we discovered that one of the subcontractors had read the bid wrong, and their price was $511,800 higher. So what I want to go back to is kind of a little bit of what led to that is we issued an addendum, I think it was about 3 days before the bid was due, to have an exterior only option. And that was kind of at the request, I think at the time, of city staff, because we weren't sure if we were going to do the full project, and we wanted to see what the price would be to do exterior only, because we knew we had a liability there. So that addendum was issued about 3 days before the bid was opened, which didn't give subcontractors a lot of time, to be honest, to ask questions and clarifications. So after bids were opened and then we brought the price to council, Once the subcontractors were notified by Codell, here's our intent to award this bid to you. This project is moving forward. The subcontractor for bid package 17, which was General Trades and Drywall, said, I interpreted that addendum to mean alternate 5 was exterior only, so I took the exterior number out of my base bid and put it in alternate 5. So so what he did was he took it out of his base bid and he put it in alternate 5. So he misinterpreted how that read. So when he was given notification, projects moving forward, we're about to begin, he let Codell know, who then let us and Lord Act Sargent know. What we tasked Codell with and Lord Act Sargent with was, we can't take a $511,000 cost increase back to council. What can we do? So Codell worked with the subcontractors, Lord Act Sargent, and reported back to us throughout. And what they came up with was some value engineering, some small scope changes, not anything major, that totaled about $376,000. Part of that is Codell giving up $65,000 of their allowance, which they have to address things that come up during the project. So the new guaranteed maximum price that is being presented to you tonight is $12,499,000, which is $149,270 more than was presented in April. That's about 1.2% of the project cost. So it's not, in the grand scheme of the project, it's a small percentage, but I wanted to present that. And then the one thing I want to say that Devin wanted me to remind too was, if the subcontractor had read the bid right to begin with, the price we would have brought you in April would have been $511,800 higher. It's a little bit of a blessing in disguise because of the timing, because we'd already had you approve a price and said, we can't take this high of a number back to council. What can we do about it? And then, once we notified the mayor, we sent out the memo to let you all know what had happened. So there is the sheet that shows each of the value engineering items that Codell and Lord Act Sargent worked through for us, and that we have marked as recommended to be accepted or rejected. So provided we accept and reject as indicated on this spreadsheet, that is the $149,270 increase in the price.
Stacy, also, isn't there some credits that we're going to get?
Yes,
from
there
this?
are two things in addition to that, which is Codell is working with Lord Act Sargent and I think the engineers and probably some public accounting firms as well to look at the Inflation Reduction Acts. I believe those were just passed by the federal legislature in 2022. Is that correct? So it's a new credit. So there's a couple of ways we can go after that. One is kind of like the historic tax credits. We can sell the credits to a business, or we can, at the end of the project, file some paperwork and apply for a direct rebate, is I believe how that one works. So we're still figuring all that out. We expect that, I believe Devin said in her memo, probably to be $200,000, which would cover the rest of this difference. That'll be something we get on the back end of the project, though, as a rebate or a credit. The other thing is the historic tax credits. And we did receive notice today from Lord Act Sargent. The Kentucky Heritage Council emailed all applicants, and we expect to get about 78%. So that means the request exceeded the pool of money, and we're expected to get about 78%. That's still around $2 million. So, which $2 million is the number we've been sharing, but all along with tax credits that we hope to get around $2 million. So it's still around $2 million, but, and that's the 12.5 times 20% times 78%. That's how I arrived at that number. So, but because the applications exceeded the pool of money, we don't know our final number yet. It was a general letter sent to all applicants, and it just was sent to us today by Lord Act Sargent because they filed the application on our behalf. So that also will get us back down to, I know what was more of our originally budgeted number And then, of course, we'll bring some long-term finance options to council for all or part of that to consider, probably within the next month. So, any other questions for me?
I have some questions. I know Stacy and I had a conversation at length today. I just would like some clarification. I think you're here to clarify some things. So I understand that there is a construction management allowance, and that is what you used to take out the $65,000 that you are lowering. Is that correct?
So the allowance, it was spread through multiple bid packages throughout the job. So we put an allowance in the demo contractors bid package, in the window contractors bid package, general trades. I think in total it was $85,000 that we had in there just for the fact that it's a 200-year-old building with unforeseen conditions. So that was in there to try to cushion anything that we came up with throughout the job that we could cover. So we're going to pull 65 of that out and still leave a little bit of money in each of those bid packages for that.
And to clarify, Wes, that's at your all's risk, correct? We still have a 5%
Yes.
owner's contingency.
Yes.
In addition to those allowances.
And so that's the other question I have. And so you're down to what in your allowance package?
I think there's still 15 or, I think maybe just 15,000 is all that's left.
Okay, and anything that goes over that, you all will have to cover?
Yes.
And not the city. And then we've got the 5% owner construction contingency, which is money that we have set aside as part of this total cost in case of change orders and other things.
Yeah,
that might come up.
unforeseen circumstances that were not anticipated when we bid the item, or scope changes. If we say, we changed our mind, we want a different carpet, we changed our mind, we want a different light fixture, that kind of thing.
And do we have the amount that 5% represents?
Yes.
Yes, it's right now, it's 5% of the so the new construction cost before all the fees is about 10.5 million. So it's 5% of the 10.5 million, plus we budgeted, I think it was around 250,000 for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So those two numbers added together is 775,041. So this was the one I forgot to ask you to clarify this for me before, but if we do not come across any unforeseen circumstances, do not make any scope changes, that money comes back to us, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So it would be unlikely that we don't have any of those change orders and things, but we could anticipate
if we don't,
fairly substantial refund.
So the contingency was originally set at 10%, and the FF&E was 500,000. As a team, we all decided with the mechanical electrical engineers, the architect, Devin, Stacy, and I, and Codell, we could reduce it to 5% and cut the FF&E and still feel comfortable, but with the understanding that that money, if we do find an unforeseen condition, that it has to be used for that. But there still should be plenty of money in that can be turned back over after the fact.
Okay, and so you only have 15 to 17,000 left in yours, which you get to keep.
Well, the subcontractors.
With the
Yes, it's
so it won't be your money, it'll be
right.
subcontractors.
Mhm.
And we could potentially get up to 775,000.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect us to get it all by any
Yeah.
means, but hopefully we won't dip into it more than, say, half.
And because this happened, I just have to ask, what confidence do we have at this point that a lot of eyes have gone back over this and there are no longer any confusions with any of the subcontractors and the bids they've put forward, and this is a solid process?
Everyone has signed their confirmation letter except for this particular contractor. And you know, I've thought back and tried to, you know, how could we have caught this? And to be honest, it would have been very difficult because there was one bid package, one contractor that bid this bid package. His price reflected, I mean, the 511,000 that he was over is in that number altogether, so we didn't go back to him and ask him for it.
Right.
But when alternate number 5 wasn't accepted, you're just looking at alternate number 1 in the base bid.
Uh-huh.
So, but there was confusion with that addendum. I mean, it was sent out late, way late in the game for people to be looking at, different prices, so.
Well, it's good to know that all the rest of them have been signed, and there's no
Yeah.
confusion.
And they're
Yeah.
just waiting on
Yeah.
this to see that we accept.
The problem is this contractor has 3 different bid packages. So he's the very first sub that has to come in here and start demoing the job. So that's kind of why we, waiting on this and then getting people moved out and just working through the process, so. But yes, everybody is good to go. As soon as if we get approval, then we'll be ready to execute contracts and move forward.
And again, to reiterate to the public, this is money that if it had been done correctly, we would have paid anyway
Yes.
for the work that we are
Yes.
being required to do for City Hall. So
Yes.
this is not
Yes.
costing us extra money. It's simply getting the columns in the right order and what needs to be paid.
It was just in the wrong call, exactly.
Yeah,
That was the whole
he moved the
problem.
exterior work from here to here rather than having it both places. If he'd had it both places to begin with, the number we brought you in April would have been higher.
Okay, thank you for clarifying all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Couple comments. We looked at a guaranteed max price of $12,352,996.
Yes.
Now we're doing an amendment to $12,499,566. So it's a little concerning to be doing an amendment on a GMP right off the bat. And I think you've explained that well. But 2 things. One is I'd like to see a problem report from Codell explaining what happened, along with emphasis on reoccurrence prevention.
Well, the one thing I'll say, the guaranteed maximum price will not change again.
Well,
I know it doesn't seem like it, this is different than a change order. This is different than something encountered on the job. But the guaranteed maximum price, as soon as that subcontractor signs his contract tomorrow,
Yeah.
cannot change again.
I understand that, but the perception of we had a GMP and now we're doing an amendment to that, I understand, the background on it, but I would like a problem report from Codell explaining what happened with emphasis on reoccurrence prevention, okay? Second thing is I'd like to see a breakdown of some of the items, because the categories are very vague or broad. Interior light fixtures, $30,000. Does that mean we're gonna be burning candles or?
No, it just
Okay,
means
so
we'll
just
choose
some
a less
explanation on,
expensive.
some
light
explanation on what the breakdown of what some of these items are.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the ones that were accepted, just a little bit more detail around those, so we have a better understanding of what
Yeah.
that actually means.
We have cut sheets that CMTA has, shop drawings, showing the different type of fixtures from what was specified. We can provide for all that.
'Cause
And the
like-
original GMP, we never executed, really, we never
Yeah.
amended it the first time. So this really will just be the first execution of it.
And my concern too is like with landscaping, I think it says, what, $8,300?
Yes.
So we're probably gonna go back and do some landscaping ourselves, so that would be
Yes.
a cost.
There will be a cost for some landscaping, but again, once we get to the end of the project, like I said, hopefully we have some money left over in contingency furniture fixtures. That money comes back to us. We will go out and bid out or contract with a local landscaper to do that work
Yeah, but- and
post-project.
we felt that you could get it done quite a bit cheaper for the landscaping number that we have here.
So, Stacy, I guess the overriding concern is just the guaranteed minimum price does not change anymore,
Right.
correct?
Yes, it doesn't mean,
Maximum price, no.
I'm sorry.
all I was gonna say is it doesn't mean there won't be a change order, but the
That's- and
guaranteed
that-
maximum price,
That was my next point.
as soon as that subcontractor signs tomorrow, we're
That
done.
was-
We
that was my
will not
next
ask for a
point,
change
is
in that.
This is final, and that any
Yes.
future changes would come through change orders, which would
Yes.
be, we would initiate ourselves.
Yes. Yes, Codell would come and say, we tore this apart, we did this, here's what we found, and it would come back to you all for approval before we execute that work. But any future change orders would be a result of conditions in the building or us changing to ask for something more expensive. Sometimes change orders are decreases, maybe we'll get lucky. No.
All right, any other further discussion or questions? I need a motion.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion is made.
Second.
Second. Are there any further discussion or questions? All those in favor of the municipal order adjusting City Hall Project GMP signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say likewise.
No.
Motion passed. Next is the municipal order approving investment agreement.
Yes. I have some representatives from Stockyards Bank with us here tonight, so if there are any questions about the actual proposal, I will certainly defer to them. They are much more knowledgeable than I am. But one of the things council and especially the finance committee has brought up is wanting to be sure that we're getting a return on investment for our funds, because we do have a good fund balance, healthy fund balance right now. So our first step towards that was taking $5 million of our cash to invest for up to 12 months. And we did a RFP, so we advertised it. We solicited a few of our local institutions. 2 of the 3 I solicited responded, and then 1 responded that just saw it in the newspaper advertisement. So as you can see, we had 3 financial institutions respond. The finance committee, consisting of the mayor, Councilmember Allen, Councilmember Hampton, myself, and Devin, scored the proposals. Stockyards Bank was the highest scoring proposal. They have an excellent investment management team, and they also had the most detailed proposal on how they wanted to invest the money, the rate of return, recommendations for the future. So for this initial investment, we're recommending to invest $5 million with Stockyards Bank for up to 12 months. I think in their proposal they had 6, 9, and 12 month kind of rolling terms. So if you have any questions about the specifics of the numbers, or types of investments, I'll defer to them.
Stacy, can you talk about the rates that we were at and the projected rates that we think we will get?
Yes.
Or spares?
Currently, and I did attempt to contact our current financial institution that holds our bank account to ask what we can do about getting the interest rate up on that. They weren't available today, but I've sent an email, so I'll report back once I hear from them on that. Because currently, our checking account gets 0.59%. We have one CD that gets 0.25 and one CD that gets 0.3. So I'll be talking with the finance committee about how we want to handle those as they come to maturity. One of those is held at Stockyards. I think it doesn't mature until October, so they had already talked to me previously about when that matures, looking at, even if it's just another CD, a different CD type or term with a higher interest rate. One of the CDs at Stockyards that matured recently, we didn't make any changes to how it was invested. We just rolled it over into a different type of CD. It is earning 3.94%, so you can see that the interest rates have gone up. So that is a more current interest rate. But all we did was renew that one for, I think, was it 3 or 6 months? I think to get it to October when the other one matures, so the finance committee can decide what to do about those 2 together. These are CDs that we've had as long as I've been here. They're not CDs that I started. So that's what we're getting. And when they submitted their proposals at the end of April, I believe the rates were around 4.25-ish, that's something like that. But I know the rates change every day. So Jason, do you want to elaborate or on where the rates are today? Okay.
And I'll say Treasury rates can change daily, so I'll say that before I say anything else. So Stacy's correct. In the investment management accounts that we manage, each account has a cash component as well as an investment component. Cash currently is paying upwards of 4%. We cannot just manage cash alone. So we were looking at U.S. Treasuries as what was proposed, put together in the proposal. And Stacy's correct, we were rolling those out 6, 9, 12 months to meet the 12-month time period. Today, took a peek. Again, this may change as I'm standing here talking, but a 12-month U.S. Treasury was paying 5.2. So, 6 month, earlier this morning was at 5.3. So taking advantage of the situation where Fed has aggressively raised rates over the last 15 months or so was part of the plan. I don't know if that helps.
The 5.2, and then your fee comes out of that, is that correct?
Correct. So
Which
that's
is a quarter of a basis point?
correct, 0.25%.
So it's just a hair under 5%?
Yeah, because this is a little different than a CD.
Is
When
what
we
we'll be
buy a
adding.
CD, it just kind of
Yeah.
sits there and accumulates interest. This is
And-
investment management, so there's a
Yeah.
small fee.
Certainly beats
Associated with
0.59%.
Yeah.
And part of, Stacy and I have talked about this at length. Part of our hope is to build a relationship. Obviously, we can't control where rates are going to be forever, but at least you have an advisor to advise you on what we see coming along the path, and how we would position a portfolio 12 months from now. We are that rate chaser for you, for a lack of a better way to say it.
Thank you.
Stacy, this is just a corollary
Yes.
to this. Do we routinely have a process of writing down all of the investments and where they're invested and for what percentage points?
I mean,
Does that
we,
go to the finance committee and?
We shared that.
and-
Well,
and
it's-
you shared
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that time, but is there a routine?
there's not a lot of investments. I mean, this is the second time. I shared it with them, I think, back in February.
Right.
It was the first time I shared it with them, and then Councilmember Allen asked me to update it and bring it today, which we did have an update, because like I said, Stockyards had come to me with the one CD that was about to mature and said, there's a better opportunity here. So, and of course, with the new investment policy, we'll be updating quarterly everyone on that. That was one of the requested changes. I think we may have approved that at the last meeting. So we will be coming quarterly to update on all investments. And of course, this is our, other than our cemetery trust funds, which are a whole different thing, because that's not our money. That's money that people left for the perpetual care of the cemetery. Other than that, we've not really had any investments other than CDs.
Right.
So there's not been a lot of management that's had to go along with it. So this is our, kind of our first foray since I've been here into that, so. And this is just our first step. We've talked about, once we decide exactly, if we're using any long-term financing for City Hall or not, then we will address potentially a second round of an amount to invest, so.
Okay, great.
But, we want to keep it liquid, but we want to get a better return, so we will.
Do you know, I know I saw those numbers back in February, but I don't have it with me, unfortunately. The total dollar amount, not all the different accounts, but the total dollar amount, what that was paying out as of last year.
I would have to look. I want to say it was around like 12,000 last year. Of course, rates have gone up, so our interest over the last 6 months has obviously gone up. But I feel like last fiscal year, it might have been around 12,000. And of course, obviously, we're going to be projecting hopefully closer to a couple $100,000 just from this investment. But like I said, I've already reached out to our current depository account holder to see if we can get a better rate on that account as well, to see what we can do.
Just this one change alone is a significant.
Yes, and like I said, this is our first step. So,
For the Stockyards Bank, how many members of your team will be on this team looking at the money? Can you talk about that, please, Jason?
So here in central Kentucky, there's 5 members of the team, myself and Selena included, 5 here in central Kentucky, but I am one investment officer of a team of about 25 to 30 across Stockyards, obviously Louisville being our headquarters. And then in our wealth and trust management group, we're just shy of about 100 employees total. So I don't know if that answers your specific question. Yeah. We are the boots on the ground in central Kentucky, so we have the backing of a lot of other individuals. Yep.
So we're your local contact, even though we do have quite a large team behind us.
So we have your contact numbers?
Absolutely.
Yes.
They're right
It's
there.
included in the proposal.
They're right there.
Yeah, you should already have that in the copy of the RFP you have, which I think everybody's been given a copy of the RFP, so you have all the information on the investment team members for everyone in your packet.
Correct. And Jared's our area manager for Scott County as well as in
Cover the local branches here in Georgetown.
Cynthia as well.
Any other questions for?
One last question, just for confirmation. Would the intent right now be to put this in a 12-month CD or a 12-month treasury or CD? Or are we looking at 6 months or 9 months, or have we decided yet?
It's a combination. So their recommendation was like a rolling, put some of them in 6 months, some in 9, some in 12. So one thing we'd have to talk about, of course, with them is if we're approving a 12-month essentially agreement with them, the 6 month, when it comes for renewal, they could invest for another 6 months to get to the end of the 12. We talked about the 9 month that, I don't know if they do 3 month treasuries. So we could, the 9 month, we could reinvest for 3 months to get to the end, but, you know, if we feel this is a successful relationship, we could come back to council, if the finance committee so recommends, come back to council before the end of the 12 months to potentially extend. So we'll.
And we also talked about trying to keep 6 months liquid. And just staggering these so that we keep at least 6 months liquid.
Is it possible before we have our meeting next month in August, the special call meeting, that we can get a breakdown of what you're looking at?
Yep.
You know, what dollar amounts?
It should be in the.
Yes.
It's in the packet.
Yep.
Their whole proposal is in the packet, and they actually.
Being approved by.
Yes, so that was their proposal. Yeah, so that was their proposal, so the municipal order didn't have a lot of detail in it, but their packet, their RFP that I attached to the packet, several pages in, but it has all the numbers. Obviously, the rates have changed, because rates have actually increased since they submitted their proposal.
That's what finance committee.
Yes.
With your recommendation.
Yes, we scored as a committee. The finance committee, the mayor, myself, Devin, scored and came to that conclusion that that was the best proposal submitted. So.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? We entertain a motion at this time.
Motion there.
Motion's made.
Second.
Second. Are there further discussion or questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say likewise.
Thank you all.
Okay,
Thank you, Stacy.
kind of an addition to that, I'm gonna ask Mr. Hottown to come up. He's got some information to give us.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief because everybody wants to get out of here for the evening. Just echoing what you said, the Cardinal Drive project is on their way. You all approved that contract last meeting. And so we expect to get the bulk of the work done while school is out over the next 2 months until August, to get the bulk of that out of the way. We're hopeful, so we don't disrupt school traffic when it starts in the fall. The next one, Osborne Way, where we had the storm drain collapse over by the Walmart Center, is done. We're back open, so that project's complete. Also, the Bourbon Street Stormwater Project is complete as well, where we rehab the storm system over there. The streetlights on state roads, as the mayor mentioned, we got some good news from KU that that they got the poles they needed, so those are being installed as we speak. They've already started on the bases at a couple of the locations where they pour a concrete base and then bring the poles in. And then we have a little bad news, which the TAP grant for the downtown streetscape project, we did not get selected for a grant award this time. That doesn't mean it's over. We're going to go back and we're going to modify our proposal or our application to break it into 2 parts and go for it this next coming cycle, which is coming up later this summer. So we're hopeful that we'll have better success next time. And that's downtown at Roll Springs, where we did over the continuing on towards the Claremont Apartments and Elizabeth Street with new sidewalks through there, so.
And I think also, that in finding out that we did not get the award, that we had conversations with them as to what can we do to sort of our chances of this, that they're giving us some information that's going to help us in the next round.
Yeah, so we'll continue to.
And the next round will be when?
We don't have a date yet.
It was later this year, right? We don't have to wait a full year.
Yeah, it's not a full year. It's
Sometime in 2023.
sometime
Yes.
this year, yeah. We'll have an application deadline date, and we'll reapply at that time.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Katie, don't throw anything at me.
Oh,
Streetlight question.
yeah. No, I'm not. I don't mean to do, I'm as frustrated as you are with it.
I can't remember, was there a proposed streetlight at Long Lake and Cardinal Drive?
Let's see,
Is
Long
there a way you
Lake.
can go back and check on that?
No, that is not one of our locations, unfortunately. We can look at that. We can certainly look at that.
It's a pretty dark intersection.
It is,
A lot of
especially since we're doing all those,
kids.
doing all those improvements out there as well with the road improvements.
Long Lake and Cardinal Drive.
Yeah. Now, the Long Lake portion is a separate project that KYTC has taken on. We didn't have the funds to add that turn lane that we wanted to have on Long Lake to going into Cardinal Drive. We had to drop that. We didn't, there was no way we had the funds to do it. So the state is picking that up, and they're evaluating some intersections for potential roundabouts out there, possibly.
I would just ask, if it's not, if a streetlight is, or if one or more streetlights are not part of that project, is there any way to get us an estimate back to know what the
Yes.
cost would be to add?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
light through that
Yeah.
Intersection?
Yeah, we'll definitely look at that. I'll bring that back.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you,
all.
Eddie.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll have council comments, and we're going to start it with Mr. Showalter. Okay. Ms. Conway.
Thank you, Stacy, a million times, and the Finance Committee for working so hard to get this budget together. I know it's a real ordeal, and you did a great job. Thank you.
Ms. Brent?
I just had a couple of questions. Eddie, the email that I sent to you from the gentleman on Persimmon and Woodlawn, has that gone to the traffic committee? or-
Yes, we'll take that to the traffic committee for next time
Okay.
and discuss it in there, and then any action we'd bring to the city council for meeting.
When is the traffic committee meeting? 'Cause
We're
I-
not doing it June the 17th because it's Juneteenth, it's a holiday. So we've canceled June, so we won't be doing it till July.
Be in July.
I just
It'll be
need
the
to
third
reach back
Monday.
out to Mr.
Sure,
Gray
just
to
tell
let
them
him-
that we appreciate his
Okay.
comments, and that we'll look into it and see what we can do.
And what this was, it's gonna, about moving the traffic sign. I think we all got emails, but I'm trying to follow back up with some of these folks. And another question is Emerson Farm. I don't know if that's still, true. Emerson, Mr. Testament, is that, maybe that's not you, Mr. Rhodes.
Code enforcement.
Code.
You talking about the
Uh-huh.
Amazon?
Is that still,
I haven't heard anything. They haven't called us today.
they said they were gonna work on getting it.
Yeah, they were working with him.
On May the 26th or whatever.
But I haven't heard it.
I need to check back with him on that also. Other than that, we all received an email today about,
Republic,
Republic, which you'll address that, which was praises, actually.
it was praises.
Okay, I'll let you address that when you get
Oh,
to that.
well, it was from a lady that lives on West College Street, and she had actually taken pictures of one of the garbage trucks. The gentleman had actually got out of the truck and picked up garbage. She's not had any issues with her can at all. And even the fact that some of the stuff had blown under, he moved the truck and got out and continued to pick it up and clean it up. She watched him from her kitchen window. So she just wanted to give a good report about that. And then she also took a picture of what they had in their trash can, which was like this much overpass that had wood and everything sticking out, which I don't know if they called to take it or whatever, but they did.
I seen one like that.
But she was saying that they were doing a good job over there in that area. She watches them out of her kitchen window.
Which was good to hear.
It was a good report, for sure.
And hopefully that'll be forwarded to Republic.
Yeah, I always do. Anytime we get complaints, I forward to them, so if they need to hear something good once in a while, it'll
It's
make them
good to
feel
have
better.
that.
And so we'll get that to them too. All right. Mr. Stone?
Thank you, sir. Stacy, everybody involved in the budget, amazing job. I know the employees are going to appreciate it. And everybody involved deserves a huge pat on the back. Want to bring up the past week, the police and fire, EMS, even Robert Bruin and his guys. It was amazing to see this town come together and the jobs that they were doing, people pulling over and stopping. So that was huge. And then, like Chief Allgood in our police committee meeting, our officers deserve a huge pat on the back for going through the strain of what they went through. And then for departments like Frankfort, Jessamine County, Harrodsburg, I don't know any others that were there, but I know there was others that showed up. Huge thanks to them as well for helping take care of this county and this city. So, and that's it.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Hambrick.
Thank you for the budget work. Thank you, Stacy, for the budget work, for fielding all of the questions that all of us call you behind the scenes. A lot more happens behind the scenes than I think the public realizes with trying to get these things ready with this entire group asking questions at different times and getting the resources we need. I've been going to these recovery ready, turn my microphone on. I've been going to these recovery ready community certification meetings with Karen Butcher, and just a little bit of an update. Boyle County does have that certification now. We'd like to be the second or third community to be able to get it. We talked about getting grant money and trying to work on second chance employment. And so we need to get together with the chamber and other business leaders and see if we can't start the ball rolling in that direction. There are employee assistance programs that you can get funds for as well. There's Kentucky Transformation Employment Program. There's lots of areas that this group is going to try to investigate to try to get this city certification. And it's not just because we want city certification. That certification actually means that we have a viable, ongoing recovery program. And we can use some of the funds that are coming in the future to go towards funding some of these as well. One of the biggest needs is for supervised transitional housing. And I know that we've got the housing person coming and we can link that person in to that effort. So using these opioid abatement funds is going to be a really helpful thing to take down some of the drug use in Scott County. Chief Allgood, when a horror like happens to one of the officers, what are the procedures that you go through to try to make sure that the officers are as safe as possible going forward? Do you have a process of review? Do you retrain? Do you, it's just terrible that you can just go out for, things that you're called to go out to and have a death of an officer happen. So how do you all respond to that?
We'll take as much as we can from the incident that we know, see if we can learn anything from that, improve anything, or ask for more safety or more training. And then the city allows 2 days for employee paid, so that's a good benefit. We try to get this incident here. We try to get everyone that was on scene from the police department that was there. They've had 2 different opportunities to speak to the team that came down from Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. They self-dispatched, if you will. They came down. So we offered that, and then Travis Timmel from post-critical incident seminar that's offered through our academy. We'll send them to that as well if they like. So a lot of them just sit down in a room and have the peer-to-peer conversations, and a few of them went to the more in-depth with Travis and his team. We just keep an eye on them, just see how they're doing, we check in with them, just offer resources and just check in with them a lot more to make sure everybody knows that this is on the forefront. And like we've mentioned on Assistant Chief Nash, he's back. He's taking this week to get reacclimated. So next week, he already knows one of his projects will be to help get our policy at the police department started for mental health, to look at that and just reach out to other people in the community and, maybe just not have a one-stop shop, if you will. We'll have multiple options. So the people that came down from Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati were able to help the fire department, EMS, our dispatchers. But I know that there's some only help law enforcement, but we all know that there's a lot of people involved there. So we're trying to get as much help for everybody as we can.
Yeah. It's a horrible thing, and the entire city and county has been in major mourning. And if there's anything that you feel like this city council needs to do, I mean, it's one thing to get raises, which, I'm thankful that we were able to work into this budget, but anything we can do to make sure that our officers and all of our first responders are safe, please keep in communication, because we want to do that. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Mr. Hampton.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess first off, congratulations on your first budget.
Whew.
I think I think it's a good budget. We got a lot accomplished with it, with the pay increases for the first responders, which was much needed. So I'm happy that we got that done. First of all, we have some challenges looking ahead. I know we have a workshop coming up on revenue. And that sort of transitions me into my next comment. I think everyone probably saw the headline in the paper this past week. We've now become the 6th largest city in the state, and that in itself presents more challenges. More infrastructure, more police officers, firefighters, first responders, and that even makes the need that much greater to look at our revenue sources, because going forward we've got to find ways to make sure that everyone is protected and that we take care of our employees, because without them this community does not function. So that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Allen.
Yeah, we got some exciting news from Toyota about an additional vehicle, which is always welcome news for our community. So, Tony, thank you. To the budget, there's been a lot said, and the workshop is planned for July the 12th, I think from 4 to 6. So come, like Mark said, open-minded. Let's throw a lot of ideas out there, because we have to find recurring revenue. We have to. Also, Sanjay and I attended NAACP Freedom Fund banquet past weekend. It was well represented and appreciative of everyone that showed up. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Tackett. Well, in closing, before, we have the meeting on Wednesday, which is a special call meeting, that we'll talk about the issues with, the investment and the PDI for the future, growth that we are anticipating, and it goes on the line of those revenue streams. And this is for something about committing something for long-term. So we know we got this coming. But in closing, before we go, is that, thank you all, thank you, the Finance Committee, thank you, Stacy, and all others. You know, as a outsider coming in to this, you know, I've been a part of this community for more than 50 years. And oftentimes you hear people say, you know, we just want people to listen to us and do what's best for us. And I think this council has taken the first step in actually investing in people. Because if we don't start investing in the people that we have, that works for us every day, because they need to feel value. And if we are going to take that charge of actually investing in those people to do a better job, is that we got to let them know that, hey, we care about you. And we appreciate what you do. Because none of us up here would not be successful without the people who actually the boots on the ground. And we want to keep them in mind, as well as our first responders, but it's also the others that also do this. And we want to continue to do this. And again, and come in July, we're going to come up with some aggressive methods I'm going to bring to you to look at and find out some ways for some long-term revenue streams. Because that's been the issue of this council in the past, is finding that. So we're going to take the bold steps to actually start doing that and do what's best for people. And that's what we need to do. Is there any other that needs to be brought to the council? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.